What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15, and the offer ends very soon in just a couple of weeks from now. Anyways, as far as the market is going, the market has seen a bit of a dip after we just got the PPI numbers, but the market's still holding support. So we'll have to see if we can get a bounce off these levels or not. But let's talk about the numbers. PPI was not that good. PPI on a month-per-month basis was at 0.4%. That's above the consensus in the forecast. And then core PPI month-over-month was at 0.2%, aligned with expectations. Initial jobless claims was above expectations at 242,000. And then besides that, we had core PPI year over year around 3.4%. That was a little bit above what we were expecting. But then the biggest jump was PPI year over year. So this is all items PPI on a year over year basis. It was at 3%. This is well above the 2.6% target. So not the best of news. This is another sign that inflation might start to increase, at least tick up. And this could be a leading factor, at least for our CPI numbers, but not a guarantee, at least quite yet. Because of hot inflation numbers, the market obviously may react a little bit negatively to that. That's why we're tipping a little bit, at least during the pre-market. Besides that, when it comes to news, I didn't really see anything else that was too crazy. We do have Donald Trump, who's going to be ringing the bell for the New York Stock Exchange. So we'll see if that affects things or not. So we'll see what happens with that. Besides that, I didn't see anything else that was too crazy. But there are some announcements as companies like Apple and Microsoft plan on investing a lot more money into AI. And then besides that, I didn't see anything else that's too crazy. There's not really much coming out in the news right here. We do have Costco announcing earnings after market close, so keep that in mind. Besides that, now let's just focus on some very, very important levels and then talk about what the charts could be suggesting. So I just want to mention, as far as SPY goes, we are holding support quite well, especially around these key levels. But because of the fact that this data was not that great, we did see a bit of a pullback. So it's very important to watch our levels very, very closely. So the first main level is going to be very close to our 20 EMA. This is going to be key, at least for how SPY ends up holding up. And it happens to be around that 605.4 area. So that's been like the first support that's been holding this thing up, at least for now. 605.6 area, that's the support right here. If we lose this, there's going to be a risk of us dipping closer to about that 604 area. So make sure you guys keep that in mind. And then if we try to hold this, we could attempt to rebound back up to about 608 or so. So it's going to be a little bit tricky to see how well we hold. When we open, there could be a little dip to about 605.5. We'll just have to see if we could hold this level or not. So be prepared for a little bit of a dip, and then we'll see if we get a bounce from there or not. It all depends on what kind of reaction we get with Trump ringing the bell. I'm not 100% sure about that. It could go either way, if that's going to have somewhat of an effect on the way the market moves. So we'll see about that. So please keep that in mind, guys. So look for a small dip to about 605.6. Now let's hope we get a bounce off that. Or if we don't, we're going to be at risk of coming down to 604, and we could bounce off that instead. So just keep that in mind, guys. That's what I'm seeing, at least thus far. For others out there, we have ES, which is on a bit of a downtrend here. Now, ES is holding support around 60.76. If that fails, it's looking for 60.67, and then 60.50 is our supports. We're barely holding this one, so I think it could be getting closer to 60.60 before it attempts a rebound. So be mindful of the fact there could be a small dip coming upon open before we attempt to see some kind of bounce. The tough resistance is at 6,100, so we're in a range right now, but there is a risk of us dipping lower before anything else, before we see some kind of rebound attempt. For others out there, we have Nvidia. This is dipping. It might retest 137.13. If that does not hold, we're looking for 135. I think 137 could be tested. We might attempt to rebound off of that to get back above 139. But look for a small dip to 137. We'll see if we get a bounce from there or not. For Bitcoin's range bound between 99,000, about 102,000. It's going to likely trade sideways here. It could dip closer to about 100,000 flat. And we'll see if we get a bounce off of that or not. But there are some wicks forming here, which could suggest there might be a little bit of downward pressure for 100,000 flats. So look for a potential dip. Now, Tesla has been very resilient, but we're trying to hold this 420 support. If that fails us, we're looking for 414. But then off these supports, Tesla could always just bounce and try pushing higher again. But look for an attempt to retest 420. If that does not hold, look for 414. Then we should bounce off some of these levels eventually. But be careful with Tesla because of the fact that PPI was hot, and there's some news that Cathie Wood has sold a part of her position. Well, she sold about $21.8 million worth of shares, but if you look at ARK's holding, they're holding over $1.1 billion worth of Tesla right now. So, a small amount of shares being sold for profit taking is completely normal. NQ could be dipping closer to about 21,640 to about 21,610 in that range. So it could be a smaller dip coming before it attempts to rebound. But if we don't hold 21,600, we could be dipping lower. So look for a small dip before it attempts to rebound. QQQ as well, we could be dipping closer to about the 526 to 524 area. I think we might dip a little bit more to like 526 at least, and we'll see if we bounce off that or not. If we don't, 524 could be coming, then we could bounce off that instead. So just be careful with QQQ. There should be a bounce coming later, but for now, there could be a little dip initially. Apple could retest 245, but then we should try to bounce off of this because that's where the 20 EMA happens to be. For the IWM, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We're downtrending, making lower highs and lower lows. There is a risk of us getting close to 235 before it tries to rebound. For coin, this could be retesting 312. We'll see if we bounce off that or not, so keep that in mind. Amazon's at this 230 resistance. We'll have to see if we break it or not. Otherwise, it could dip to about 227.8 before it attempts to rebound. So look at 227 and 225 as support. This could be a small dip before it tries to bounce later on. Meta could also be dipping closer to about 626. If that does not hold, 620 is where we bounce off of. So those two supports before it attempts to rebound. For Microsoft, we could be dipping closer to about 445, not to mention 444 in that range. So I think we could be getting close to 445 before it attempts to rebound. So keep that in mind. And then Google could also be dipping closer to about, well, we hit this resistance at 200. We failed to break past it. So we could be hitting 195 as our first level. If that does not hold, there could be a risk of it getting closer to 192, like right over here. We'll have to see if we bounce off that or not. But in my view of the market, it's very simple. Might be a small dip coming. We'll see if we get a bounce or not later on, depending on how the market responds to Trump ringing the bell upon open, and then also other factors. But just know there's a little bit of downwards pressure because of the PPI report being hot. So be prepared for a small dip, and we'll see if the market gets a bounce at the key supports I called out. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a good rest of your day. I'll be back hopefully in a couple of hours to give you guys another update. Until then, I just wish you all the best, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you guys in a couple of hours to give you guys another update. Thank you, and peace out.